Within 7 minutes of sending the song, Ben responds with, "I love this song. This will be placed very fast." 24 hours later, Mike Caren says, "This is an incredible song. Amazing job." 5 days later, Mike says, "Cee Lo just cut it. Everyone loves it." 6 days later, Mike says, "We're talking about if this should be a Cee Lo X Gorilla song or a Cee Lo X Mark Ronson song, maybe." 2.5 weeks later, it's mixed for the movie, and then a month later, it's on the soundtrack.
That gave me goosebumps. That's awesome, man. That fills me with happiness, like, to hear that. That's really cool.
Hey, it's Chris Sernel, and welcome to another episode of No Smoking, We're Rolling, the podcast where we do a deep dive into the creative process behind songs that I love. Today's guest started out as a guitar hero in the suburbs of Chicago. He has toured the world with the bands Tubbring, Mindless Self-Indulgence, and Super 8-Bit Brothers. He's scored dozens of films, had hundreds of songs in ads, movies, and TV shows, worked with some of the hugest names in the music world like Sia, Flo Rida, David Guetta, The Weeknd, Labyrinth, Billie Eilish, Britney Spears, Quincy Jones, I could go on. He produces, mixes, masters, performs, creates, plays every instrument on the planet, and he's a musical genius. The song we're talking about today is What Part of Forever by Cee Lo Green. The song was included on the 2010 Twilight Eclipse Soundtrack, which debuted at number 2 on the Billboard charts. It's been certified gold, received a Grammy nomination, and is a favorite among twihards and indie rock lovers alike. Here to chat about the creation of What Part of Forever, I've got my lifelong friend, like way back to high school and high school bands, someone who I credit with giving me a life-changing, encouraging kick in the ass via email to get up and go after my musical dreams, the most wildly creative person I know and an all-around awesome dude, the one and only Rob Kleiner. Welcome, Rob.
Thanks, man. That's the nicest intro I've ever gotten in my life. Wow.
Did I get all the facts right?
I think so, man. I'm going to pre-hire you for my eulogy or something. That was great.
That's sort of weird. Pre-hire for the eulogy. I like that one though.
Yeah, you're the man.
I'll just give you the. I'll record it and we'll begin. So normally, my first question to my guests, or you, or anybody, would be, tell me this where the song started. Tell me the genesis of this song. I think I actually know the answer to this one since we co-wrote the song, right?
Right.
So,
yeah. I was touring a bunch, and then I'd come home from tour, and I was trying to make a living, doing studio stuff. I was like Craigslist ad, like studio, $20 an hour, anybody off the street coming in. I was, barely making ends meet. I was, literally a starving artist. And then you called me up one day, and I don't know if this is factual verbatim, but this is the way I tell the story, So Chris Sernel calls me up, and he's like my buddy from high school, does music. He's got a publishing deal. He's like killing it. I'm the one scraping to get by, and kind of looked up to where you were at that point. And anyways, you call me up and say, hey, my publisher, has an opportunity to write a song that would go in the new Twilight movie, and it would be, sung by this guy like Cee Lo Barkley, Gnarls Cee Lo or something like that. I never heard of the guy, but maybe I think you have. I think you're into that stuff, and so you want to help me co-write the song, co-produce it. And of course I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then I think you came over that day or the next day, and we worked we worked for an afternoon, maybe just on the track, right? Without even thinking melodies or lyrics. Yeah. And then I remember I kind of got some of the melodies in the shower the next day, and I was like, hey, come back over today. I think I have a cool melody or a couple cool lyrics. I don't really remember all of what it was, but I remember I had something in the shower that next day. The rest is history, kind of.
Done. Yeah. Hit song. So my publisher, Mike Caren, said, hey, I was in LA for a trip, and he's like, hey, do you know anything about the Twilight movies? And I'm like, I just read all 4 books. And I think he judged me probably privately for reading the Twilight books, but he's like, okay, maybe this will help with the song. And he's like, Gnarls Barkley's looking for they're looking for Gnarls Barkley in this. I'm like, I think Rob's into this Gnarls Barkley stuff. So, so I'm like, I called you. I'm like, I know Twilight, you know Gnarls Barkley, are you around? Let's do it. And one of the funny things I remember when I came over, I had oh, here's some chords, and I started playing like G, C, D, and you're like, do you got anything a little classier?
I didn't say that,
like,
did I?
Yes. So I go G to E minor, and you're like, yeah, those are classier chords. So this is fun. You don't know this, but like every time I'm in either it's by myself or with other people, I think, are these chords classy?
I scarred you for life.
No, you gave me like a cool factor. It was a very polite way of saying that's not cool enough. And I always think about classy chords now.
Wow. I gotta live by my own rules, man. I need somebody to like kick me in the butt telling me this is not classy enough every once in a while, because it's probably been all downhill from there for me, man.
I wasn't actually. I was like, probably like a little like, should I be offended? No, that's okay. No, classier chords. It's all good. I do also remember, so my publisher, Mike, was like, I got this title. He's like, what about like what part of something don't you understand? Like he was like, I think him and somebody had a fight over there with somebody, and it was like, what part of Show Up to Work on Time don't you understand? Somebody said that.
Yeah.
And they're like, boy, that would make a great song. So he's like, and then I think I was like, oh, Twilight, Eternity, what part of Forever. So I kind of credit Mike with giving me the title, and then we kind of just fleshed it out. Day one was all music for sure. There's a couple things I remember. Maybe you could, like, in terms of making the music, the classy chords was one of them. The hi-hats, do you remember that?
Do we do live hi-hats?
We did live hi-hats.
Yeah.
And we only had one drumstick, and it was a 16th note beat.
Whoa.
So we looked around, and you had like a kindergarten thickness pencil, and I played the hats with a drumstick and a pencil.
I do not remember that at all, but it sounds very believable and kind of cool.
And it was awesome. I mean, like, one of the things I think about, and you sort of just like telling the story like in 3 seconds or 2 minutes, it's like we didn't overthink anything, right? We just went with sort of, it was like I played G, C, D, and you're like, you got classier chords, and then I changed it to E minor, and you're like, great. Then you started making a drum beat, and I'm like, great. Then we pull out the hi-hats, it was like, great. Nobody was overthinking anything.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's sort of like you said, so we finished, I'm looking at this note I took. We finished day one. We had most of the music. You added, I think I left for the day. You added some amazing things that I love, like the timpani drums. Love that. Like, do you remember the timpanis in there? Or?
Yeah, it for now it's hard to remember who did what, but that's. I was probably doing a lot of film scores at the time, so I was probably like, oh yeah, throw in some timpanis, That's believable.
These are great. Glockenspiel sounds great. And when I showed up on day two, like, let's stop at day one. Did you have any? What were your thoughts? What thoughts did you have in your head after day one? Do you remember thinking? Do you think we had a hit? Did you think any? Did you think anything? Or just like,
I
where
think,
were you at?
These days I would never, like, if I had a job to write a song, I would never like spend a day or the first section just working on the track and then the vocals. It would these days it would absolutely be the other way around, if anything. And to that point, I think even then, even though, I have a lot of experience between now and when this happened, I think even then I knew, okay, we have a cool track, but the hardest part is yet to come. We're really, like, we can make the best track in the world, and that's going to get us 5% of the way there. You know what I mean? So I think I had that in my head. Like, I felt happy at what we had done, and I was excited that we were doing this, and I was really, grateful that you brought me in on it. But I knew, okay, now comes the hard part. That's what I remember for sure.
And then I don't even remember. I remember being excited about the music too. I'm with you. Like, there's a part of me that's like the top, the melody and lyric is like that's the money part, right? Like, I mean, that's if you don't nail that, you don't nail anything. At the same time, I look back at that and go, whatever process we did worked. It was like we had a really inspiring track. So then we fast forward to you in the shower the next morning. We don't have to visualize that, but you're in. I remember coming over, and you texted me that morning. And you're like, "Hey, I got some melody ideas and some stuff I want to show you." And I was like, "Great! I don't have anything. Great." Oh wait, hold on. I want us to take one step back. Do we have the whistle before that or no?
Ooh. Yeah, I don't.
That was
I don't know. I mean, I feel like we probably could have, because otherwise the track wouldn't have been very interesting. And if we were excited about the track, we must have at least came up with that whistle the first day.
That was you for sure. Oh, you're the whistler. You're a professional whistler, right?
I can whistle okay. I mean, I don't know professional level or not, but I can get the job done, like most instruments,
Right. I mean, but let's just to spend a second on the whistle. I mean, that's key. Like that part, it's the intro. It's right out of the gate. It's really cool. It's interesting.
Yeah.
And you're right. We had to have had that on day one.
I think we were we were listening to like at that time that Pete Bajorn and John song, "Young Folks" was big.
Yep. Yeah.
And that was like on the radio right then, and I was listening to this guy Andrew Bird all the time, and he whistles a lot, and that was probably where that came from,
Is that your only whistling hit to date?
Whew, wow. Well, I don't know that I have any hits at all to date, but I mean, I put whistles in songs like occasionally, like. Probably the two of us write like 100 songs a year or something. So like, a whistle here and there, and probably, some of them have done something or other, like been in a TV show. But I mean, absolutely, this is my biggest whistling performance, no doubt about that.
I love it. I'll add that to the eulogy later.
Yeah, right on.
So I remember showing up the next day again. You said you had some ideas. I walk in. You pop on the track. I can tell you're like a little like iffy on this. You're like, this shit. And you play it, and you basically sang me the verse and and most of the chorus. Mm-hmm. Like you had most of it melodically and I think lyrically, and I was just like, this is awesome. And I'm like, am I allowed to there's in a session these days. I sort of don't necessarily accept what somebody does first. Like, they can't be that good where it just came out right that. Mm. But I was like, I think this is all perfect. I think you most of that melody and everything was mostly like, I walked in and you had it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, we just need two things. We need to get this "What Part of Forever" thing in there, and so let's add it to the pre-chorus. Uh-huh. And the chorus. I'm like, we just need something about eternity in there, and the heart, vampires don't have hearts or something.
Right.
I don't know if this is your recollection or not, but
yeah, I think that's about right. Yeah, I mean, I remember I got a lot out of that shower that morning. That was like a very fateful shower. I don't know, the water pressure was good. The heat was just right. Like had a really good breakfast right before I jumped in or something. But yeah, you know what I do remember is I remember. I remember I couldn't figure out if the verse should be the chorus or the chorus should be the verse. And we had I think there was two different chord structures in it, and which one went best with which melody. And I remember not really being sure how to arrange it, but I knew, I thought those ideas were all, I remember thinking, I was excited to show you. Yeah.
Okay, you're right. That's what it was. You sang like both one over the verse, one over the chorus, and I don't know. We just again didn't overthink it and said that great. Let's just go with that one over the verse, that over the chorus. Just add the "What Part of Forever" on the pre, and I mean done. Mm-hmm. Not quite done. We'll get to the one verse issue later, but so back in, I mean, I don't know. Do you still just write one chorus, or sorry, like a verse and a chorus these days, or do you usually try to write like at least two verses? Did you learn your lesson from this song?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever done that again, where you're referring to the fact that there's the same verse on both verse 1 and 2. Yeah, I mean,
Yes,
yeah, that I don't. It's still kind of like baffles me that they, because I, if I remember right, we wrote it thinking, well, let's show it to your publisher, and if he likes it, then we'll continue on and we'll write another verse. But before we even had the chance to do that, they were cutting it with Cee Lo in the studio because they liked it so much, which was great to hear, obviously. But I remember thinking, like, well, don't they want a second verse, or is Cee Lo going to write the second verse, or maybe we thought, oh, maybe we should give this to them and let them write, so he has more a part of it. I don't remember all that, the details of that, but I do remember thinking, when it came out, I was like, weird. They've got verse 1 and verse 2 is the same exact verse, but it works.
It does work. Like, and I've actually listened as since then. I remember thinking, like, oh shit, I can't believe the first verse is the second verse. Like, what a bunch of idiots we are. Everybody's gonna think we're stupid. And then, like, ever since then, I've like, oh, there's a song with one verse. Oh, there's, that's like not that uncommon of a thing. It's 1 out of 100 songs, but that adds up to millions of songs probably that only have one verse that fly, that flow from the first to the second one.
I think with that song, why it works is it's so much about, like, the melody, you know what I mean? And it's like the words, don't get me wrong. I guess I could still see it with a second verse with different words, but it's so much about that kind of like nursery rhymey melody that the words are almost, I don't know, at least to me, like less important.
Yes, I agree. And I think that works especially in sort of an indie rock genre a little bit more. That's a little less on the nose, like beating you over the head with whatever they're trying to say. So, yeah, I agree. The smartest thing I think we did, well, there's a lot of, they weren't smart. These were all accidents for sure. But the subsequently smartest thing we did was writing a bridge for this song. Because I think we're like, wait, if we're not going to write a second verse, let's at least write a bridge. And I think you were probably saying, I can't really hear Cee Lo singing this. Like, it's all kind of lower register stuff. And we get to the bridge, like, okay, well, we need to give, if we're writing this for Gnarls Barkley, we need to give Cee Lo a moment, right? Like, he's, crazy. Like, that's what he is, right? At that time. So that was the key. And I think, that was one of the things when you get to that part, it's like, here's Cee Lo coming in with what Cee Lo does. I don't remember much about the bridge other than I'm glad we wrote it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I that part I don't remember, but that your description of it sounds right on. Yeah, like let him do like a little legato thing and let it, like our demo vocals we're not going to be able to do runs or anything like that because at least I'm not that good of a singer, but leaving the option and leaving the room to let them be able to play with that, I think, yeah, that sounds about right.
One of the awesome things here too is that was you sang the demo vocal.
Yeah, Cee Lo complimented me on it later. The first time I met him, and I was like, I was introduced, like, hey, and co-wrote What Part of Forever, and he said, "Did you sing that demo vocal?" And he said, "That was amazing. You sound really good on it." And I was like, "Wow, this is one of the best singers on the planet telling me you really like my vocal." And honestly, I really, I've never really considered myself a singer. I can sing, but was never my thing. So that was just, I don't know, that was really nice to hear. And later the A&Rs all told me, oh yeah, we really liked your demo vocal on there too a lot, and thought maybe Cee Lo wasn't even the right singer for that. And I was just like, wow, well, any singer at that point in my life was the right singer for it, but certainly Cee Lo was like, I was so happy that, he's on it, obviously.
So how didn't you become a superstar singer from that demo? Like, why did we go why didn't we go into superstar artist direction?
Yeah. Are you like setting me up for a spike here, a little volleyball? Well, I think at that point in both of our careers, we were just like over being the front man and like schlepping our own songs around, So it was like, that was, I think, probably a turning point for both of us. Is like both of us had been playing shows and hustling and pushing our music into the world, and that's fun and it's the right thing for some people. But I think the two of us, we always were more attracted to the process, and like our passion was writing and making this stuff, not necessarily the ones being on stage, or at least there were a lot of things that bummed us out also about having to like I said, schlep your stuff around and like push it onto the world. There's it's very satisfying when it works, but there's a lot of work that goes into it that is very grueling and depressing. And sometimes it doesn't work at all, and it's a whole bunch of work for nothing. Not that we don't still do that kind of thing these days,
right?
Because a lot of the stuff we do is on spec even to this day. But it's it's different, It's like so why didn't I become a famous singer from that? I just think I was at that point just done with being an artist, and not completely done, as you're probably not completely done and probably never will be done. And I'm not afraid to like put something with my name on it out in the world, but it's just, it's kind of a shifting point in both of our focuses. Like, let's be a songwriter. Let's be a producer. Like, this is what, all this stuff is building towards this instead of maybe being on the stage. And honestly, when artists ask me for advice these days, like, I say, like, I don't have any advice for artists, man. I feel sorry for you. You got like the toughest job in the world. Like all the stuff you have to do and all the stuff you got to go through scares me to death. Like I don't have any advice for you. Like I tried it and failed. So don't ask me for advice on being an artist.
I got you. Didn't fail, but I understand what your point is. Yeah, I also was thinking, didn't we think that we were going to try to get somebody else to cut the vocal? Like, oh, well, this is just like a demo to get it. Like, I think your friend Chris was maybe better, like the Cee Lo guy to have cut it. And I keep thinking, like, at the end of day 2, so we finished the song, and I went back to some emails. What were you thinking? Were you thinking, man, we got something here, we're gonna send this in, and this is gonna take off? Where was your head at? I don't know where mine was, but I mean,
I felt really good about it. I remember being really proud of it and felt like, like you get a lot of, being in music, when we were like independent and small time guys in Chicago, or at least I was definitely small time, but I mean, on the grand scheme of things, I'm probably still small time, but, I remember being really happy and really proud thinking, this may not, or it may work, but I feel like I didn't shortchange the effort. Like, I feel like this is putting my best foot forward, and if this doesn't work then I wasn't good enough, or I didn't have the right idea for this, or maybe somebody else's was better, because I'm sure the publisher had other people pitching songs at the time. So but I remember feeling good, and then I also very distinctly remember the first 2 or 3 people I showed it to. I feel good about this. What do you think? Like, can I play you this song that I'm excited about? Have a really good opportunity. And I remember it was like my girlfriend at the time, and then a friend of mine, and maybe somebody else. And they all listened to it, and it was like, yeah, it's good. That was their response. Like, yeah, it's pretty okay. And I was like, yikes, maybe I couldn't be. Maybe I didn't do such a good job. Maybe I got to go back to the drawing board. But it was very like lukewarm reactions of the first few people I played it for.
Let me add to that. I remember personally feeling like I felt like, man, we did a really great job on this. This is really cool. For me, it was like, this is nothing I would ever have done on my own. I was like definitely more either rock or pop at that time. So it was like sort of in this indie land. Like, this is nothing I would ever have done. I'm super stoked. This is the benefit of co-writing. I remember just we had a great time. It was like just probably start drinking wine at, noon each day or something like that, and just running with it. And then the first person I showed it to was my manager, and I sent it to him, and I got nothing. He gave zero response to it.
Crickets.
And his point was he didn't like it. Total crickets. So anyway, let me walk through this timeline. We'll back into this. So I send it to Ben, I sent it to Ben and Mike, my publishers. Within 7 minutes of sending the song, Ben responds with, I love this song. This will be placed very fast. 24 hours later, Mike Caren says, this is an incredible song. Amazing job. 5 days later, Mike says, Cee Lo just cut it. Everyone loves it. 6 days later, Mike says, maybe I don't know if you know this. I just reread this. Mike says, we're talking about if this should be a Cee Lo X Gorilla song or a Cee Lo X Mark Ronson song, maybe. 2.5 weeks later, it's mixed for the movie, and then a month later, it's on the soundtrack.
That gave me goosebumps.
We can come back to all that. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I mean, I never heard those emails. I remember you told me, like, your publisher responded within minutes of getting it. Like, he really loved it. But that's awesome, man. That fills me with happiness, like, to hear that. That's really cool.
I don't even think we knew what to make of all that. Like, I remember texting you and kind of trying to, like, hedge it a little. Like, these guys are excited, but I don't even know what this means.
Yeah.
And then Mike's texting me at 2 a.m. going, I'm sitting with Cee Lo right now. We played it for him. He loves it. I need the instrumental, like, right now.
Yesterday.
I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, I got an MP3 of it, but that's all I got. And so Ben... then he also said, he's like, maybe we should hold this song for the Killers.
Yeah, he told me that later a bunch of times too.
Yeah, he's like, maybe this is even a better song for the Killers. And I was just like, so anyway, the dichotomy of your girlfriend, your friend, my manager, probably my now wife, like all just like, great job, guys. Yeah, like go get him again tomorrow. And then all these people that actually mattered. Thinking it's like the best song we've ever written. I don't know. I don't even know what to make of that. Like, that's why. What's your takeaway on that? I don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a early lesson, and like, I mean, it felt both validating, to like, from and pure excitement that they were excited about it. The right people were excited about it, But also, like, it's even, like, looking back, it's like, man, like, I don't know. I don't think I could ever be an A&R, like, because I don't, like, fault those people for saying, oh, yeah, it's okay. Like, I don't know. I've had songs that I thought since a million times better than this one that make me no money and don't do anything. And I think they're better, I think they're great. And, and I've had, like, I don't know, is it the best song we've ever written? I mean, it's great, and I'm so happy. But like, if I was like A&Ring, would I pick that one out of 200? Like I don't know. It's hard, man. It's hard to say, and I think it's just like what the listener. Everybody's got their own, unique. This one's not for me. This one is for me. I don't know, man. To this day, I struggle with stuff like that. It's kind of like a mind twisting thing, like, and it's us being people that are making the music. We're always really close to it. So there's always like a little bit of protectiveness either way, I think, it's I don't know. Could go on for that, for hours.
Yeah. And it goes back to the lesson of just like make art that you're excited about and proud of. And let everybody else decide if it's where it goes and where it works and stuff like that. I mean, I'll fight for certain songs and things at times, but a lot of times it's just like, hey, I'm proud of this and I'm going to send it in, and then let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
Took a lot of time to get there. I remember, like, I would get pissed about, like, this is like, you guys like one part of this one's way better. And, but that's like that's a losing battle. Like, just let people like what they like. If they don't like it, it's all good. Move on to the next one, and yeah.
Yeah, I think, and like I think I don't get too excited or depressed anymore when like it goes either way. Like you it's like you said, like I was saying, it was kind of an early lesson in like tempering, anybody's opinion. Like, well, so and so loved it, so and so gave me the you know what I mean? So it's funny. And that was one of the good ones. And
you put a compressor on your emotions, right? Like, so the highs aren't too high, the lows aren't too low, and you just kind of...
Right. I mean, after that one, the highs were high, and I was like, I'm moving to LA. I'm gonna write one of these every day. I'm gonna be the richest person on the planet.
We'll get to that in a second. I want to get into that a little bit. So the timeline, we said, so we wrote the song on April 9th. It's cut and it's confirmed for the soundtrack in the news by May 9th, and on June 10th, it's out. so 8 weeks or something like later, it's out there. Like the first thing is like there's press about it. Then Cee Lo's on two late night shows singing it or something.
Yeah, Lopez and Leno, right?
Lopez and Leno. So he's singing it with the band. It's like, what the heck's going on here? So then, then the movie's out. We're in there. Tell me what it's like to be Rob Kleiner. How does your life change? Like both short term and then longer term? Like what was that like for you?
Yeah, wow. That's a big one. And it's like, that's emotional to think about. It was like life changing, It was first of all, I was broke. I had credit cards that I was just like could never pay off. The interest was more than the payments I was making every month. And I was literally like, I lived by that Panera Bread in the suburb we lived in. And like, I would go over there and get like a bagel in the morning and a bagel at night. And that was like my food some days, cause they were like 70 cents or something. Like I was so broke. And it was like, there was the financial side of it, which getting this like immediately turned that around, like presto. Right. But probably way more important than that. And like, it was, the validation, and like the confidence it gave me, from there on out. It's like, how many people, want to do this kind of thing with their lives, like make music, make art, and there's a big hurdles to being able to, make it make sense financially and to be able to put your, full time into it. And you do it for years without like ever, making any of that happen. And you start to think, am I one of those guys that thinks I should be doing this, but really I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm terrible at this. Like, and sometimes I still think that, but, it was, it was kind of like the validation that, said, hey, you've got something to say, you got something to offer. And like, you belong in this business, you know what I mean? And that was priceless,
Yeah, no, right. And just like, I remember we just like kind of couldn't believe I still kind of can't, like you said, just thinking back to some of how this all played out, kind of can't believe that it happened like that. It happened fast. And then like you said, it was like, so you were, I had a publishing deal. I still didn't have anything going on really other than that. It was like, oh wait, we can play in the big leagues, like apparently or at least maybe we're like, the like worst guy on the worst team in the major leagues or something like that now. But at least we're in the game.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it just, and it was funny because like suddenly then people start to take your calls and blah, blah, blah. Like that whole thing gets to be a little bit weird too. Like, oh, once you've been validated by the industry, it's it's a little bit bigger. Tell me more about how your life changed then. Like what was your, you moved to LA fairly shortly thereafter. Is that true? Or is that about right with the timeline?
Yeah. Packed it up and moved to Beverly, just like the Beverly Hillbillies. But, I just kind of thought that was the next step then, it was like, wow, you can make this work. All these people that made this opportunity happen besides yourself are all in LA, you know what I mean? And it's something that maybe I need to go like stick my nose into rather than like being an email guy. Hey, got any more Cee Lo Barkley songs that we can work on? So I thought, get there and see what happens. And it was like, I think I was, I don't know, probably within 6 months of us getting that, I was living in LA. And, it was scary, but also just kind of, I don't know, I felt good doing it and felt confident. And it also was great. It was a great move for me, coming to LA. Not that Chicago isn't awesome, but yeah.
It's not that awesome in the winter. Speaking of which, I don't know if you remember this, but when you went to LA, I remember it because it was hilarious. You played a gig and then you got on a flight to LA. I believe it like snowed like 20 inches. Does that sound about right?
It was like it was like a movie. We were on the tarmac of the plane and like to take off, and it was like the captain's like, yeah, I don't know if they're going to let us take off. The snow is coming down so hard. They're talking about closing the entire airport, and all the passengers sitting there are like, please, 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 and he's like, we just got cleared for takeoff. We're the last plane out of here today. Literally, that's what he said, and then flew out of Chicago. And that was how I left Chicago.
And you texted me with we're like the Millennium Falcon leaving, whatever. Yeah, on the last plane.
It was nuts.
So good.
And Danny Glover happened to be on my flight too, which was cool. The actor.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Well, is he a Chicago guy?
No, he was there.
Wild.
He was there speaking at a convention or something the night before. And it was funny because I was moving there and I had my little wiener dog. His name was Royal, and he was named after a movie that Danny Glover was in, The Royal Tenenbaums. And it was just kind of a funny coincidence. And here's Royal, and here's the guy in the movie that it was named after. Yeah. So it was weird. It was again like a story, like a fairy tale. Like that whole year of my life was just like, what is happening? That's crazy.
Right. I have a picture of Royal sitting in my lap. I'll post it up in the when we're doing at the session that we wrote the song, and he's sitting there. So maybe that was the juju we got. Like he was the key for the creativity and the whole thing. I don't know.
Got to have a dog on your lap when you're writing your songs. Yeah.
So, was that the first song me and you wrote together? Like really in life? I can't remember.
Well, I mean, aside from like when we were in high school, probably, I don't know. Maybe we had dabbled on a song before that, but it was definitely early. Yeah, I mean, it must have been one of the first.
Like first song where we're like trying to write for the big leagues and stuff like that, right? Or right there. Okay,
yeah, I think so.
So the process was, it's our first one. It's kind of, I don't know if it was one of your first like kind of writing for big league stuff. So your first song you write for that, within 6 weeks, 8 weeks, it's the number 2 record in the country.
Easy.
It's in the number 1 movie in the world.
Yeah.
Right?
Simple.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, is that so you're like, this is great, right? Like I'm just going to go to LA. Like you said, I'm going to write one of these a week. And I don't know, is that your experience or not?
Yeah. I mean, no, it was like, to this day, it remains one of my biggest cuts, and it was, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It was funny how quick and how easy it seemed at the time. But I think even though I joke about it, I knew it was like, wow, we really, I mean, we did a really good job, and you make your own luck, but it was lucky, and I knew that, and it was great. It's just one of those things. It's like a numbers game. You get up to bat enough times, and you're going to hit one. And that's exactly what that was.
It happened to be a first pitch fastball that we hammered out of the park and got a little lucky on. But right, yeah, like has that happened since? Have you gotten one where you felt like it was like within a month or two, something just popped out and came out?
There have been things that have kind of like struck a chord with the label or an artist just as quick. But like these days, it's like I could get the first single on somebody's record, and the record doesn't come out for like 2 years. You know what I mean? So have things happened that quick since? No, that's. I think also the music business has changed since then. It's a little different now. And so stuff like that doesn't really happen the same way, or it does in different ways, but nothing like that's ever happened again. How about for you?
Mostly not, although I recently had one where I wrote a theme song for a TV show, and a week later they said, you're in the final 2, change it, and then a week later they said you won. And it took about maybe it was 2 months from writing it to being on TV.
Wow.
It's not as big of a theme song's a big deal. I'm super grateful for it, but that was like, and that literally just happened maybe 2 months ago. So, but other than that, that never happens. Like, I mean, how many times do you have stuff like, I look at my like list of upcoming releases. So I've got not that it's long, it's short, but there's a few things on there. It's anywhere from 6 months to 2 or 3 years. Like I have one that's from 2015 that they're still like, we're still putting it out. It's coming out.
Yeah, wow. I've got a few of those too.
Right, yeah, and it's like it just doesn't happen that way. So it's like, I mean, that's why part of like being a songwriter, I think it's about building a pipeline. You build your catalog, you build your pipeline, because it's going to take, I don't know, usually years to just build it up where you start to actually get things that come in with any kind of regularity. And which is why a lot of people quit doing what we do before they get there, because it's like, man, how am I supposed to survive, those first 3 or 4 years? It's hard.
Yeah, it's like, it's funny seeing it from the other side now, like the two of us have pipeline and we've been doing this, and it's like we could have like a slow year and we'd be, it's okay. We know what we're doing.
Yeah.
But I wonder, like, these like songwriters that get signed to their first publishing deal and they're like, they get a nice advance. And like looking at them, like, I hope it works out, but like, how do they survive, man? Like, how do they, like, I don't know how some of them do it, because like, that might be their last paycheck for 3 years or something like that. And that's so scary. And you probably don't really have the understanding of the music business at that point in your career, or like how to pivot when things are slow or not working. And it's like, looking at it from this end, like, not only do I not envy artists, I don't envy songwriters these days either, or producers. It's tough, man.
And even at our level, which again, I don't even know what the level is. It's just higher than we used to be. It's not like, I like you said, I never feel like I'm killing it. I still want to quit every 2 weeks, and it's still, I still wonder, when is it all going to crumble down and all that. But like, starting. So I feel like it doesn't end. It just kind of, you move to the next one where you feel a little bit better, but you're still like, I don't know. Is AI going to take my job away? Is a robot going to write every song from now on? I don't know. Do you have any opinion on that? I haven't talked to
AI stuff. Yet, I've probably been following it less closely than lots of people. I've listened to like a couple things. I listened to that Oasis like album that like a band made, and they replaced their singer with Oasis. And like, I mean, everything I've heard so far is really low fidelity, but I guess if it's a sign of things to come, that'll get better. I mean, it's interesting, it's another thing that maybe like people up and coming are going to have to worry about. I feel like it's not something that I'll need to worry too much about at this point, which I'm grateful for. And again, I don't envy lots of people that are in other positions than me. And that's just a whole nother thing to pile on top of all that stress. But I don't know, and then I guess the other side of it, do I feel like it's right or wrong? I feel like I've always, there's the whole thing when auto-tune came out. Oh, that's cheating. You're not really singing and blah, blah, blah. And that was so silly to me even then. It's just a tool, that you use, and whatever, as long as as long as as a listener, I'm listening and I like what I hear, the final product is what matters, right? So if a robot could make start to finish something that gives me joy as a listener to hear, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I don't, it's weird to think, I've yet to see it happen, like, I don't know if it'll ever happen or not, but if it does, okay, I guess I'm listening to robot albums. I mean, that's it's like, maybe it's made by a robot, but it has there's the human aspect of it is my enjoyment of it and what I get out of it. So, I mean, I say, bring it on. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to succeed or fail, but I don't have any issues with it. Cool.
I like everything you said there, and I think one way to describe AI right now is it's just not that good. It'll probably get better, but it's almost like an intern. Like you can say, "Hey, intern, go make me something that sounds like Gnarls Barkley meets Twilight," right? And they'll spit something out. It's not going to be that good. Like interns aren't great. Like they're okay, but there might be something worth using in that then somebody like you or I can go, okay, what can we take from this? Like nothing's good about this, but you know what? That drum groove is kind of good, and maybe we can build off of that. Yeah. So that's sort of what I feel like. It's not like replacing. It's just a tool to use, and right now at least that's where I'm kind of seeing it.
Yeah, and to continue that thought, it's like when we started kind of breaking through, like getting into the maybe big leagues of stuff, 10, 15 years ago, whatever, and that was right at the end kind of CDs and physical sales, right? And right at the beginning of streaming. And I remember, being very aware of people making the music I was making in 2010 or 2011, doing that a decade before me, were sitting in mansions when I was sitting in an apartment, right? Because master sales and album sales and dudes that had an album cut on some, Backstreet Boys album or something like that, a B-side are like in mansions, right? And it's like, that doesn't happen anymore. And I was, do you look at that and you see our contemporaries bitching and moaning about it. Oh man, this sucks. But I was never mad. I was like, good for them, but this is the reality now. This is how it is now. Like, press ahead, and AI, I think, is the next little hill in that, it's the next little part of that timeline. Yeah. It's like, I don't know if it's going to make, jobs obsolete or money harder to come by or whatnot. But like, instead of like, fighting it, you go with it, and you gotta make it work,
From the beginning of the history of the world, technology has advanced, and every step along the way, I was like, oh, we're never going to need horses again because there's a car, and we're never going to need the mail service again because there's email. I mean, every single time. It's like it doesn't eliminate it. We just adapt and move forward. So I'm with you. It's generally overblown, and bring it on, and let's see if there's creative ways to use this tool, just like distorting a guitar, just like auto-tune, just like a Pro Tools versus a tape machine.
Sure.
It's all that. I'm going to grab a thing. You need to tell a story here, Rob. So do you know what this is, Rob?
Sure. Yeah, I've got the other one.
So tell the story about this shoe.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I was on tour with one of my bands, driving through Atlanta, which is where he lived, and his engineer, who we worked kind of closely with via email, Graham, they were in Atlanta, and I just, hey, I'm coming through Atlanta on tour, I would love to like shake your guys' hand. Thanks for, blah, blah, blah. I didn't even know if I would get a response, but said, yeah, come over to the studio. In fact, we're recording stuff for Cee Lo's new album. You can kind of like hang out, sit in. I was like, oh, amazing. Okay, great. Went down to the studio in Atlanta and hung out. I watched them recording this really awesome song called Bodies that's on Cee Lo's 2010, 2011 album. And met Cee Lo, and he was great. He was a super nice guy. He gave me that compliment about my singing on the demo, and Graham, the engineer that we worked with during this whole process, was great. And seeing their studio is just a really fun, time and night. Anyways, the shoe is there's these shoes in this box. I don't know, the company sent them to Cee Lo, like, hey, here's some shoes, like, wear our shoes. And they're nice and weird and cool, and they look expensive. Yeah. And they're designer of some boutique-y kind of fun thing. I don't know the label, but they had them in this box, and basically they didn't fit Cee Lo, and they didn't fit Graham, his engineer, and they're sitting there. I guess they had been sitting there for a while, and they're like, hey, we got these shoes like from this thing for free. We got nothing to do with them. Do you want them? If they fit, you can have them. And like, I tried it on, totally did not fit, but I was like, oh, it fits great. Yes. So they gave me the shoes, even though they didn't fit, because I was like, I wanted this little cool memento, and came back to Chicago and gave you one of them. So that, yeah, we both had. one of Ceelo's shoes. Yeah.
It's so good. I mean, I don't know about you, but so I have it on my, like, it's in my, like, little sort of display-ish thing here. Everybody asks about the shoe. Do you ever get people asking about the shoe or no?
I don't have it on public display. I do still have it, but no,
okay.
I don't. I'm not. Yeah.
Okay. Like, this beats any gold record or anything else. Like, this is because it's just like, why the hell is there a like moon boot shoe sitting on your thing next to, like, you know?
That's so funny.
So good. That's great. I remember I didn't believe it. I'm like, this couldn't have possibly happened. And then you came over with the shoe, and I was like, oh, this happened. It's amazing. I got a few other questions about the song. What's your best or most prominent memory of the song?
It was just like being told it's happening. You know, that's just like, it was a life-changing moment. It was like, I mean, honestly, everything from that moment on changed in my life forever. And so, and it's such a great thing too. The two of us got to do it together. We're old high school buddies. It's like we had both been slugging it out in the music business for so long. So it was just like, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better story. You couldn't write a better story.
Right. I agree 100%. There's something about like two idiots from Chicago that used to just play guitar and whatever. Suddenly, yeah. I mean, you're not an idiot. I'm an idiot at least. I don't know if you.
I'm definitely an idiot. Yeah.
Okay. What is something that everyone misses about this song that you love?
Yeah, I mean, I love it in that it's like, you know, when they told us that Cee Lo wanted a song like kind of rock, and that was weird. You know, he was doing like not this song kind of doesn't really fit in his catalog, and the fact that we made it going, okay, this is what they want, and we like that kind of stuff, indie rock, and that it worked. It's kind of like I don't know. I don't think anybody's ever commented on that. Like, this doesn't sound like a typical Cee Lo song, and it doesn't, you know. But to me, I'm very aware of that still. It's very like interesting. It was cool.
That's a great point. And when I was looking through my old emails, when I sent it in to my publishers, I like hedged it so hard. I was like, you know, I have no idea if this works at all for Cee Lo or Gnarls Barkley. If it's, you know, this might be completely off. Because I was like, this doesn't sound like a Cee Lo song. It sounded like, again, I think both of us were like, this is cool. We like what we did. This is really great. Mm-hmm. Doesn't feel like Cee Lo. So you're right. Like, I don't know that any single person has ever said like, wow, you guys did the most crazy one-off song in Cee Lo's catalog.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it absolutely was. You know, like, he is an eclectic dude, and I like that he's the kind of artist that would do something that doesn't necessarily sound like the rest of his catalog. And I think he should do more of that, and I think a lot of artists should be that way. But, working in the business that we do, it's almost like the opposite, you know, these days. And just as you said, like, earlier in our little conversation, you said like, well, it worked the way we did it. Maybe that's not how we do it now, but it's like thinking about, man, maybe we need to like revisit that. That's like not something to shy away from, you know?
Right. Just like it, like exactly. Like just because we know better now or whatever, it doesn't mean that just run with things. And yeah, exactly. I think you're right. I think Cee Lo deserves even more credit for doing this song, right? Like, it doesn't feel like, and I don't think even at any point along the way, I heard any story of him being like, I don't think this is right for me. Mm-hmm. How cool of him to do an indie rock song. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah, very cool.
He's the best. One other one. Are there any parts of the song that you wish you could change?
Well, you know, it was like, as a producer, probably similar for any producer, it's like you get better at producing, like the more you go. You definitely, like every year, you're a better producer than you are the year before it. So something what this song is maybe 13 years old at this point. Obviously, it's like, I feel like again, it's like, well, it worked. So why are you criticizing it? But, at the same time, I just feel like I could probably do it better at this point. Not that I want to do it better. I'm happy letting things exist the way they are. Like when I listen to old stuff I've done, like I have no desire to like want to rework it or change it. Like super happy letting things exist as they were meant to at the time. But like, ooh, what did we do with that? I don't even have a specific, but snare sound or kick. Why did we choose that? Probably listening to it now, right. A couple things like that might hit me in the face.
Couple things. One, I remember you told me, like, maybe this is like a few years after it came out, you're like, there's a vocal added on this thing that bothers me still to this day. It was like the endings of the vocal like doesn't cut off quite the same or something like that. That was a subtle thing. We can blame the vocal engineer on that one. But I'm with you. Like, I listen back and I could go, oh, we could totally dial in better guitar tones, or we could do better this and that. But then I'm like, it sounds so cool. We'd make it worse. Like,
probably.
There's so many. So I think about that today, though, when I'm like dialing in sounds and I'm like, wait, maybe I need to harken back to just this. Like, instead of spending 3 hours trying to find a kick sound I like, just find one that works and it's cool. And if it's, I feel like I overthink things more. I don't know if you feel the same way. Like, I overthink things more today than I did when we were just sitting in your studio apartment, just making something that felt good, and we just kind of went with everything.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a little bit of that. It's always a struggle. But I feel like I'm pretty good at, like, I don't have time to overthink things, man. It's like, it's going to be what it's going to be, guys.
Actually, I like that. Like, I'm trying, now that I have kids, I've gotten into that a little bit where I'm like, okay, kick drum, I'm going to look at 3 of them. And I know generally where it's going to be a good one, or I'm just going to do a roulette spin and find one, and it's going to be good. You're right. Like, you got to, the constraint of time and just, I have to get things done or whatever.
I think also it's like, I talk about this a lot, like when I talk with like songwriters or producers, like it's like trusting your instincts and going with your instincts and committing to your instincts before you even have them. Just, you got to know, like, you don't got to do anything, but I think it's a good practice to trust yourself and to say, I'm going to trust myself and be okay with that. And it might sound like a no-brainer, but I think a lot of creative people struggle with that. And I think, in order to stay productive, I make sure, like, I keep that healthily in my mind.
For sure. And I think that's a great approach for sure. I've got a lightning round and some wrap up in a minute, but is there anything else about the song, What Part of Forever, that is there any other things that you think, that stories or thoughts to share on that?
Just thank you, brother. Thanks for having me on it. I'm glad you didn't hit up one of your other former bandmates or something that day.
I'm glad I didn't either, because we wouldn't have written a song that was going to go on the soundtrack. I mean, I know you've told me, like, oh wow, that, thanks for having me. It's like, I would have never wrote this song by myself. So, yeah. So no, you were the first and only call on that one. I was like, Rob knows this Cee Lo guy. He's the guy. Let's do some lightning round questions. Favorite song of all time?
Whew, I think Happy Together by the Turtles.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's like I
love that.
It's like, it's like kind of a juxtaposition. It's kind of a sad sounding song, but it's called Happy Together.
Yes.
And it's like haunting. I love 60s rock in general, is probably my favorite music of all time. I just, I love the lyric. I love the juxtaposition. I love the production. Obviously it's a loaded question to pick one song, but if I'm going to have to pick one song, there it is.
So the reason I love that is because both of my kids, so when they were both like infants, they cry all the time because they're infants. And I would sing Happy Together to them on loop for sometimes like 30 minutes straight.
Really?
It was the bedtime song, and for forever. I mean, like, my 4-year-old, we probably only stopped at like a year and a half ago.
Wow.
But it's like their song. So, okay, there's something about that song for sure. I mean, I'm with you. I don't know that I would have would say it's my favorite of all time, but I love the song, and I'm with you. It's the E minor 7 in there, and just some of the different chords and the way the chorus hits it like just becomes so happy. Like lift in the chorus is so bright.
I have a playlist of my favorite songs of all time that I'm on right now. I could just rattle off a bunch of them. Perfect Day, Lou Reed. Nights in White Satin, The Moody Blues. Ain't No Sunshine, Bill Withers. Surfer Girl, Beach Boys. Bittersweet Symphony, The Verve. Only Have Eyes for You, Flamingos. Heard It Through the Grapevine by Marvin Gaye. No Surprises by Radiohead. We got Crying by Roy Orbison. I'm on Fire, Bruce Springsteen. Back to Black, Amy Winehouse. I Will Always Love You, Dolly Parton version. Yeah, there's a lot of them in here, but those are a couple of quick ones for you.
I love it. What's your favorite song of right now? Like right today, what's your favorite song? Like of current kind of stuff too. Or it could, you know what? It could be something older, just something that right now is your favorite song.
Yeah, right now, today my favorite song is Miami by Carolyn Rose. It just came out, and it's
Carolyn Rose is so good.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's like crazy underrated, and the song Miami is just, it's like everything that I'm all about. It's just like the production, her lyric is like just, yeah, it gives me chills even just thinking about it. It's so good.
I love I love all of her stuff. That like Is It to Feel the Way I Do song is so good. Like just like you said, her songs, the production, it's pop, but it's like cool, it's timeless.
Are you talking about the
yeah, love it.
You think we'll last forever? That melody on her song Do You Think We'll Last Forever is the most insane, awesome melody I've ever heard in my life. She's crazy good.
Yeah.
And she was just in LA and I didn't go to the show and I was silly, I should have went, but she's amazing.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan too. Favorite album of all time?
I guess I'll have to go with OK Computer by Radiohead.
Somebody just, I think Drew Lawrence just said that as well.
I mean, it's weird. So my rock band Tub Ring, we did a little reunion album a couple years ago, and we did a podcast each night talking about each of our albums, me and Kevin, the singer. And I kept bringing up, well, this song is a Radiohead, inspired, or that one's Radiohead. And one of our fans wrote to me personally, like, wow, I had no idea, like, you guys were so inspired by Radiohead. Like, I don't know anything about Radiohead except for their song Creep. And I'm like, ugh. So I was all excited. I was like, well, you got to listen to this. You got to listen to this. You got to listen to this. And I made him all these, like, recommendations of things to listen to. And he wrote back a couple days later, like, I don't really like it. And my head was like, all right, never mind. It was like, I was like, well, many people consider OK Computer the best album of all time. If you look on critics' lists, it's always in the top 10 of every critic that's ever existed. Maybe give it another listen, guy.
What's great too is he's a huge fan of yours and your band, right? That was heavily influenced by that. And
yeah, it was mind blowing, and like it was just like, wow. It was weird because you do like, we do rock stuff, and I think like obviously some of it was punky and like, and maybe at least my band, we kind of mix genres, and I think people that are into that really hard stuff, like it's hard for them to like appreciate anything other than that. I mean, I've known, and I don't know, some people that are really into hip hop are hard for them to appreciate rock stuff sometimes too, maybe. But yeah, I don't know what his deal was, but that's my conclusion with anybody that I meet that likes my band but can't appreciate Radiohead is they need something like faster or more punky or something,
Okay, that's right. I just posted up a little clip the other day of a Beavis and Butthead clip of them listening to Creep by Radiohead, and Beavis's head starts exploding when the chorus hits, and he's like, "Yeah, I love this part." So then the chorus hits and it drops back down to the super chill verse,
right? And
Beavis is like, "What the hell? This part sucks. Like, why is there a sucky part of this song? Get to the cool part." And Butthead's sage wisdom, he says, "Beavis, if the whole song, if there wasn't a sucky part, the cool part wouldn't be cool. Like, you need the sucky part to make the cool part cool. And I was like, isn't that what we do? Like, you got to have dynamics. You got to have a verse. You got to have a part that... if the whole song's just a chorus in your face the whole time, it's not going to work, right?
Sage wisdom there. Wow.
So,
yeah.
All those years of watching Beavis and Butthead paid off. Guilty pleasure, artist or band?
Wow. Well, I have a Spotify playlist for that, too, and I could tell you who's in it. I've got it right in front of me. LMFAO for sure. Sean Kingston.
Wow.
Soulja Boy. And Flo Rida. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would not have guessed LMFAO.
They are definitely a guilty. It's like the dumbest, funnest stuff on the planet. I love it. Like I love every one of their songs. I love all their videos. They're hilarious. Like, just awesome.
So the Rob Kleiner that I knew, like, in my early 20s, like, Rob listened to the weirdest music. Like, you'd be talking about, like, French pop or something. Like, you know, you were into Sia before Sia was Sia. Like, is that music still a part of your life? Like a lot of the stuff we're talking about here, which is great. It's popular 60s music, you know. Caroline Rose is alternative, but
yeah, no, I think I have my ear pretty low to the ground. I would say I like I said, I'm like always discovering stuff on Spotify and letting Spotify find stuff for me. My guilty pleasure LMFAO Flo Rida playlist does not get a lot of plays, to be totally fair, but it is still fun.
Right on. I know you were always the guy to be like, ask Rob who the coolest, weirdest, craziest French pop, Italian. It's an era of music that, like, I hadn't even really ever explored in my entire life. What song of yours that has been yours, meaning, you know, any band, anything you've written, produced, whatever. What song of yours that's out that people could actually check out do you think people are sleeping on? You know,
the last few years I've been working a lot with my friend, this singer Lisa Crawley. And but like pretty much everything she's put out in the last few years, like, it's my production, co-write, and I think that deserves some ears. And then I work with this hip hop artist from Chicago, Serengeti, and we've been putting out a lot of stuff in the last few years, and that stuff's really fun. And both of those things get listens. They're not like totally obscure, but yeah, they deserve more listens.
Got it. I'm going to listen to both of them as soon as we're done here.
Nice.
Okay, so let's just talk real quick. What are you up to now? I mean, you do everything. You're constantly busy. You're working with huge name people all the time. Just talk a little bit about that. What you're doing right now? Yeah,
well, I've been working on with Labyrinth on his new album for like a long time, 2.5 years, and it just came out a couple of weeks ago. And so that's out of the way. But that was like a really big project that was going on for a long time. I'm focused a lot on mixing and mastering these days, and I do like a lot of the soundtracks for Sony and Disney, like mastering their soundtracks. So like I did Avatar last year, did like the Euphoria soundtrack. I've got like the Street Fighter soundtrack coming up, which is exciting because I used to play that all the time when I was a kid, and that stuff. Yeah, that's on my dock. I'm doing a lot of like mixes and mastering for a lot of people that probably you work with, and I would like our peers. You know, I'm kind of like do a lot of stuff for a lot of like smaller artists. Working a lot more in licensing. I do a lot of like writing for licensing. I've got I think I can talk about it. Yeah, there's a movie coming out in Netflix on Netflix in August, which I'm super excited about. It's the first time. I know you've done a ton of this, but this is the first time I've done it where it's like I wrote a lot of the music in it, but the actors are like singing the songs I wrote, or produced, and they're like, so I had to like vocal produce these actors after I did the demo, and that's going to be really cool to see, and I'm excited. I haven't seen any of the footage yet, but I've been working on it for like a year or two with these guys on Netflix, and it's like a choose your own adventure Netflix movie where you can like do different things. So there's this song in it that's like the song, and there's different versions of it, and there's like versions of them messing up and stuff like that, and that could be one of the things that happens. Or there's this really great version, there's like an acoustic version of it, and I don't know, I'm kind of pumped about that. It's going to be fun. I'm also glad it's done though, because it was
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a long process doing all these weird versions, and they even had me do a version that's like make this intentionally bad, and I was like, that was really challenging, actually, man. Like okay, like what would like a bad producer do here and like overproduce it, you know? Like, but yeah, it was funny.
That's awesome. I'm super excited. I mean, you've got a million things. Do you have a favorite amongst all of that, or do you kind of like the hodgepodge a little bit of what you're doing?
Yeah, I think it would drive me crazy if all I did was mix, or all I did was master, or all I did was write, or all I did was produce. I love being able to do a little bit of all that. It definitely keeps me sane. Yeah, like just focusing on one of it. And at different points in my career, I've done that, like used to write 5 days a week, 6 writing sessions a week, and that's no good for me. And I used to produce 3 or 4 songs a week, and that's no good for me. So for me, to keep me sane and keep me interested and happy, doing a little bit of all of it is like perfect.
I love it. Where's the best place for people to find you these days? I'll give out your home address at the end of this, but
yeah, I was gonna say Los Angeles. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you could go to. I have my website is just robkleiner.com, or my mastering website semastering.com, and they're both kind of linked. And so yeah, that's those are good spots to go. I don't do a lot of social media stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, you're there. You talk to me once in a while, at least.
Yeah, a little.
I made the cut. Rob, thank you so much for taking the time. I credit you as again, like I said in the beginning, a great friend, amazingly talented. This song not only I mean it kickstarted my career and life. And I remember back when I was 25, I still have the email. I was complaining to you about how I couldn't get started and I was struggling. I couldn't find band members, and you wrote me this super encouraging email, kicking me in the ass in the politest way possible. Like, you got to get out and do this. And I printed it. I laminated it. It was up on my wall. And I'm just so grateful to have you in my life. And
thanks, man.
Yeah. No, you're one of the best, man. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for watching and listening to me and my good buddy Rob Kleiner catching up on our big hit song, What Part of Forever. It's awesome to reconnect with Rob. We've been friends for years and years and years, since high school. So super cool to connect with him. Lots of great stuff in this interview, lots of laughs. I think some great takeaways as well. Thanks for listening. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell, do all that good stuff. We need every little bit of support that we can get here early on as we're launching this podcast. We'll see you next episode.